So if you missed the NHL playoffs last night, and if you missed what happened, Jake Oettinger got pulled after 2 goals in the first period, and Pete DeBoer made a call that I still think is questionable, even though his rationale was pretty damn sound. And like when you look at it from a macro perspective, you go, all right, he may have had a point. There's still part of me that sits back and goes, man, this was a very, very, very ballsy move. And it didn't end up working out. It didn't work out for the Stars. But he was very committed to at least explaining his rationale for why he pulled Oettinger after 2 goals allowed. Only 2. 2 goals allowed, first period. And it was early, and it was an elimination game. But I want you to hear what Pete DeBoer had to say, because I found it shocking that you take this starting netminder out. Even though he hasn't had a lot of success against Edmonton in the playoffs, I'm still shocked that with an elimination on the line, he made this move. So let's go out. We'll listen to Pete DeBoer, and then we're going to bring it back, a couple of comments on it, and then I have a comparison to make, and then we might head out for the weekend. But here we go. Here's Pete DeBoer on why he pulled Oettinger after 2 goals in the first period.
Well, anytime you pull a goalie, there's the reasoning's always to try and spark your group. So that was the number one reason. We had talked.
I hate the idea, by the way, of with an elimination on the line, saying that the way to jolt the team is by pulling the goalie. I get that in the regular season it makes sense. Man, if your team is getting their teeth kicked in the way that Dallas was last night, the goalie's the least of your concerns. I mean, probably could have made one of those, probably could have been a save. But to pull that guy, especially with everything that's committed to him long term, and how big he's been for you in the postseason, before this series, I'm not sure that's the jolt. Well, we'll keep going.
Endlessly in this series about trying to play with the lead. And obviously we're in a 2-0 hole right away. And you know what, I didn't take that lightly, and I didn't blame it all on Jake, but the reality is.
Oh, Butt is about to do a ton of work there. I didn't put it all on Jake, but oh boy. This isn't like a little butt. Like this is like a butt that's been doing squats and doing whatever people do in the gym to enhance their gluteus maximus. He's taking this from a gluteus maximus to a gluteus enormous. All right, here we go. Butt is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Is if you go back to last year's playoffs, he's lost 6 to 7 games to Edmonton, and we gave up 2 shots on 2 goals in an elimination game. So, it was partly to spark our team and wake them up, and partly, knowing that, status quo had not been working, and that's a pretty big sample.
So so the head coach of the team, mind you, this team that had an exceptional playoff run to this point and looked like they could very well represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final. That team, that head coach, who's undefeated in Game 7s, that coach said, I'm going to pull the goalie because we need to jolt the team, and then also very clearly had it in his mind that historically, Oettinger's lost 6 of his last 7 playoff games against Edmonton. Now, is it fair? Yes. Is it a perfectly fair line of reasoning to follow? Yes, 100%. Should he have said it publicly? I don't know. I'm one of the people who wants to see and hear coaches and players be honest. So you can't exactly crucify the guy for being honest. And at the same time, when you go, he's lost 6 of his last 7 games to Edmonton in the playoffs, then shouldn't you have done this sooner? Wouldn't it have made sense to not start him in games sooner in the series? If you were that worried about it, why let yourself get in this hole? Well, it's because he's your best option. He's your best goalie. Would they have gone back to him if that series had extended? If Dallas had flipped the game on its head and won and forced another game, would they have gone back to Oettinger or not? That would have been the follow-up question I would have gone with. Maybe somebody did ask it, maybe not. And then it's hypotheticals, and then the coach probably weasels their way out of it. But he's one of the best goalies in the game. Yes, he struggles against Edmonton. There's no doubt about it. But that whole team struggled. That wasn't just one guy. So then you kind of like zoom out for a second. You go, all right, well, DeBoer is a really good coach. Oettinger, probably a top 5 goalie in the league. You go, there's going to have to be some work to like patch this one over, right? And then you look at what Oettinger is owed. And that's where shit gets really crazy because you kind of have to patch this up between the coach and the player. Because Oettinger is now owed $8.25 million. $8.25 million each and every season from now until the 2032-2033 season. Again, I will repeat that because, woo! Pete DeBoer benched Jake Oettinger after 2 goals in an elimination game. Oettinger is owed $8.25 million through the 2032-2033 season. Holy shit. That is a mess of a situation because now if you're Dallas, your number one priority is fixing that relationship because if you're Oettinger, you're pissed. And when you hear those quotes, you're even more pissed. And if you're Oettinger and you go to the front office and say, this guy's got to go, or like something's got to change, you can't say that shit publicly. And Dallas doesn't do anything, well, then if you're Oettinger, you're kind of like, maybe I just shouldn't play here anymore. But then if you're the front office of the Stars, you go, all right, well, if we were to explore trading Oettinger, what are we going to get back? Because he's not making $2 million or $3 million, even $8.25 million. That's a hell of a cap hit. So then you think about the Flyers. And you think, you know what? Ivan Fedotov's making a few $1 million. Flyers have some second-round picks. Maybe a second and an Ivan Fedotov gets the job done. You know what? We'll throw in a Nick Seeler, too. Seeler, Fedotov, and a second for Oettinger. You're welcome, Dallas. Now, there's no way that it happens. Also, if you're a Flyers fan, you want Oettinger, which I wouldn't blame you for. It'd be great. It would certainly accelerate this thing. And it would certainly lock in my belief that the Flyers are a playoff team next year. They're not going to part with like first-round picks for Oettinger. And they're certainly not going to part with a first-round pick next year for Oettinger. I'd be fascinated. If this were to happen, like if he were to go to market, whatever that looks like, if he were to go on the trading block, I would love to know what some of the rumored trades are. I'd love to know what teams are willing to offer. Are there teams that would offer one or more first-round picks to get a true number one goalie? The good news is if Edmonton is his kryptonite and you're an Eastern Conference team, you don't play Edmonton. And if you do, you play them in the Stanley Cup Final. And as we all know, 2026, the Flyers are going to offer $20 million plus to Connor McDavid, and he's going to come here. So if you're the Flyers, you trade for Oettinger now, and then next year you sign Connor McDavid, and then you don't have to worry about any of it. See, it's brilliant. It's like 7D chess. Well done. It's not happening. Probably neither of those things are going to happen, but it's at least fun.